Let's move on to a simple subject, homelessness.
Nice try. Oh my
But
gosh.
it's part of the same conversation,
It is.
isn't it? And this is an area of investment.
Right.
Now, I wanted to get your take because, obviously social media was blowing up with this Como documentary
right.
called Seattle is Dying.
Right.
And when I watched it, what I took away was they posited that really it wasn't as much a housing crisis as it was a drug addiction crisis exacerbated by rising housing prices, right? That people who are dealing with a drug addiction need stability to be able to get out of that.
Sure.
And so I'm just curious. I don't know if you've seen the documentary.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure that
yes.
have had numbers of conversations
Right.
within, your department about, well, how do we deal with that? What's your takeaway from what you know, talking with Council for the Homeless and all that about what's going on
And actually
here?
talking with homeless individuals. So, Chris, yes, there are those individuals who started with drug and alcohol issues and became homeless. We also have individuals who became homeless for a number of different reasons, and then mere survival on the street and the stress of sleeping under the laurel hedge next to this particular area has brought on alcohol and drug use. But they're not all in drug and alcohol problems. They're not all mental health issues. I've sat with individuals and met with them, talked with them, 3 individuals, Dan, Don, and Dale, all working men. They had showered, they'd washed their clothes at the navigation center, they each had appointments. It was cold, cold, cold. They had jobs, but not jobs that paid enough for housing. They were looking for roommates. They were looking for anything that they could partner up, have a roommate, and get into something and get off the street. One was a retired plumber who had broken his hip. Can you imagine crawling under a kitchen sink with a hip replacement? No, and he lost that ability. Drug and alcohol use? Not that I could tell. Very much wanted to figure out how to get off the street. One gentleman was a security guard for the Trailblazers down at the Moda Center and lived here, worked down there, knew the Trailblazers, knew all of that, but again was looking for a roommate. Nice conversation, easy conversation, but looking for a way to live off the street. And many of the people around me were working on computers, some were watching while they were waiting for appointments. Individuals who couldn't afford the rent. When I went out for a point in time count in January, cold, miserable time, you knock on the tent, you have your federal form that you're supposed to fill out. The young man that was there lived with his grandmother and actually pointed down the street to where they lived. She died. He didn't have enough income to stay there, and so was sleeping in a tent all tucked away and working, not making enough for that first month, last month, all of those different cleaning deposits and everything else. Again, looking for an opportunity to get in off the street. Yes, drugs and alcohol and mental illness continue to be a problem, but people don't choose Vancouver to be homeless in. The people that I'm talking to, the people that I'm meeting, and I still bake cookies for them. On Saturday when Jamie Spinelli and her outreach team go out and talk to them and work with them, they want to come in. How do we get in? And that's what the city of Vancouver, with Council for the Homeless, with the county, are trying to figure this out. We have 6 shelters. They're full. Do we build additional shelters, or do we put them closer into housing? When you take that finite amount of money, do you put it in a shelter to get from the tent into shelter and get off the street? Or do you put it into that transitional housing? And so that's where we'll disagree, because the city and the county are trying to negotiate that piece. But we very much want to get them on the path, taking those baby steps. So whether it's Meriwether Place or Lincoln Place all of the different ways that we're cobbling together money with the council, with the state adding some money to Vancouver Housing Authority, with our Affordable Housing Fund and CDBG and home and everything, trying to build those opportunities for our workforce employees to live and work. That's tough. But guess what? That happened during World War II. We had workforce housing during World War II for the shipyards. So we're back into the same routine again. We're trying to build housing for our workforce more than anything else.
Let me ask you, because as you mentioned the Navigation Center, I've had some conversations with some folks around there.
Right.
I know you're a member of the Facebook group that posts a lot of complaints about what's happening around there. Just give me your sense of what they're complaining about. They've brought some complaints to the city about issues of drug activity happening there, people camping in the area, finding needles, finding human waste, things like that. How do you view their concerns, and how does the city go about
Oh, we
finding a way to
absolutely
address that?
appreciate their concerns and are working on it. In our thinking, we need to make this Navigation Center a success, to bring the people in, get them the services they need, work with them so they feel comfortable getting those services, and get them into housing. Whatever we can do to make that a success, not just for those that are homeless, but for the entire neighborhood, we're willing to do. Is it additional security? Yes. And we brought in additional security so that they're outside working with individuals who are outside, maybe on the sidewalk, working with Walmart on the other side of the street, working with the neighbors around. So, for example, the talking trash folks are individuals who we hire who are homeless, and they go out and clean up garbage. And they start at the Navigation Center each morning, and they go out and they clean and clean and clean and clean. And then they go out to other parts of the city, and then they come back, and at the end of the day, again, they do once around, about a 3-4 block radius around that entire Navigation Center. People camping, yes, we've had people camping, but we've had people camping there before too. But individuals have noticed an increase, and so we want to make sure that our police and our outreach individuals and our talking trash individuals and our security are working with each one of them, because I want the neighbors around to feel secure. I don't want them to worry that that they have a fear. If they want to walk their neighborhood and go to any of the businesses around there, they should be able to do that at day or night. The other piece of that is the 80% of that Navigation Center that's not being used. So we want to have that conversation with the neighbors. What asset would be helpful for them? Is it a health clinic? Is it a health center? That not just for the homeless, but maybe it's something that all of the neighbors could use. Is it a shelter for women and children? We need to have those conversations. We said we would have those conversations in the fall. So we're trying to solve our problems now. It's been open for 5 months. What are some of the issues? How do we solve that before we go to the next step? But we want to make the Navigation Center a success for everyone.